This gives us a chance to talk not only about how to mix reds, like about cool and warm reds, but it also gives us an opportunity to deal with hard edges. So the nice thing about tulips is that they have structure. And our last two assignments, working with trees, painting trees and painting clouds, you guys probably noticed that we did not have much structure. So it was almost all soft edges. But tulips have some hard edges, which help kind of define the petals. So we're going to be playing around with how to do all of those things besides color mixing. And if those terms don't make sense to you, please feel free to jump out and say it. I'm going to try and explain everything as we go along. Is everybody going to be painting today? Everyone painting? Yeah. Oh, besides, who's following the assignment, I should say, is everybody painting? You're not. You're off the hook, Dina. Okay. So I'm going to move this aside. And I want to know how much. Well, you know what? I'm just going to make a presumption. I'm going to presume that some of us are going to need. We're going to start with a pencil drawing. And I'm going to assume that some of us are going to need a little bit of help with that. So, and we're going to start by really sketching out this flower. So if you have a ruler, you can follow along with me while I grid this thing to give us an idea. You know, actually, I don't think we're going to need to grid this today. I actually think this is going to be okay. So you'll notice that the structure, and we're really just going to focus on this flower right now. And you kind of get to decide what happens in the background. There's some busyness back there. So go ahead and take you're going to want a piece of canvas. I'm using canvas sheets, but you can also use canvas board. You can use a canvas pad. You can use canvas paper. Just anything that can take acrylic, or if you're using watercolor, Grant, you're going to do this on watercolor paper, obviously. But regardless of what substance you're going to use, you're going to start with a pencil drawing. So make sure we've got a pencil. I'm just sharpening my pencil right now. And I'm really happy, by the way, because I love painting is really, I love to draw, and I've been teaching drawing for the last like 6 months or so, but I really dig. I really dig painting.
Well, yours is in a bad shape.
What's that?
Sorry, I was talking to my cat, Leo.
Yes. Oh, yes. And for anybody who does not know, if you see a wild looking like cheetah creature, that is one of Sandra's 3 Bengals, and they're fantastically adorable. All right, so let's start here. Believe it or not, and you'll see I'm checking here just to see. I'm checking to see that this flower really kind of comes almost to the edge, and this is really at about the halfway point up the canvas. So when I sketch here, when I start my sketch here, I mean, flowers, I'm going to start at about the halfway point up here. And then I am not going to draw the petals right away. I'm actually working on getting, so I'd like you guys to follow along with me. And there are reasons for this, which you'll find out. So I'm really following this black line. Is it tight? And here. I should make sure you can see this. I have to kind of move the camera around to make sure everybody sees this. Here we are. Yeah, so tulips really seemed like a great sort of structural project. So we start with this crazy looking geometric shape. The reason is if we start drawing the petals, there's a tendency for us to make things too big. When you're a beginning drawer, it's really easy to make that mistake. So it's actually a lot easier to sketch out. And by the way, this is also something you could do with paint. So you could take kind of a skinny brush and sketch this out with like a single, like a color, not black, but like anything else besides black here. So it helps to get the outer shapes so that you don't make things too big. Really, this is just 3, well, if you want to be really literal, this is 4 triangles kind of within this envelope of shape. That helps me. Can everybody see well enough?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Cool. So there's triangle 1. Let's see. Triangle 2, I can actually see where, if I kind of run my finger across here, I can see that triangle 2, kind of the center lines up here. See that? If I go, maybe it's a little bit lower. Here, let me check that again. If I run my ruler straight across. Oh, okay. So the center is a little bit higher. If I go straight across from here to here, my center is a little bit higher. Here's triangle 1. Down here is, well, this is kind of a mushy triangle, but still triangle-like. Triangle 2. Triangle 4, 3, sorry. And then this is triangle 4. So that when I start to, oh, and I can see already, that's too big, too wide. How can I tell? There we go. This is a smaller triangle because I could see that the petal kind of has, this petal goes straight for quite a while. So go ahead and sketch that out. So this is actually, I know lots of people have taught themselves to draw, and I'm not going to have big debates about it. But if you want to kind of start to construct things, and particularly because we're working with photographs a lot, because it's easier on Zoom. It's actually more accurate to get, let's see, there we go, to get the outer shapes first before you get the inner shapes. It's actually easier to be, and later if I need to correct, like I can already see I need to correct here a little bit. It's easier to correct if you start with the outer shapes. And so here, I'm going to take a picture on WhatsApp and send this over so you can see this, because it's easier to see it on WhatsApp than it is here. Although, let me see if I can make this a little bit stronger. The next thing we're going to do is now start to sketch in the inner shapes of the petals. And these are defined in red. So my next job . Let's see, I'll start here. Janet, was that you?
It is me.
I thought so. Hello.
Hi.
I'm not even going to expect you to do this assignment. You have work to do, and you know what it is.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
Good. See how I'm able to like kind of sketch. Well, notice a couple things. Notice how easy it is to be off on these measurements. Fascinatingly, it's like really easy. Notice with this technique, there we go. So maybe this comes in. I'm noticing that this is a little bit long, so I'm going to bring my, see, so I can start to kind of correct myself. So here I am, I'm the teacher, and I'm making a bunch of drawing mistakes as I go in. So I want to make something really clear here, like mistakes is really a part of the artistic process. I had a student take beginning drawing last week who 2 weeks ago who did not have an eraser with her because she didn't think she needed it. And anybody who is starting, and what I tried to explain was, I think there's this idea that there's a kind of, you have a kind of skill at this, and that you get it right the first time, but that is almost never what happens. You can see there's something else happening here too. And that is, oh, I see. Wait, I went in too long here. And that is that, here we go. That we've got some, I'm also sort of outlining light, mediums, and darks. That's going to be important too. And notice, like I said, so anyway, the idea is that we don't always get things right the first time, and we often don't know we're right until we get something down on paper. This is very hard for perfectionists. It's kind of work because you kind of need to be able to put something down and then correct it. And that can be really hard for people. So if you've got any perfectionist tendencies, and of course, once I get this in, I can erase these lines because I don't need them anymore. So let me take a picture of where we're at. Notice I did not start in the center. And I'm going to show you the way we're going to approach the center. I feel like the center is where people tend to get into trouble with drawing. And those of you who want help with your drawing, I am teaching a beginning drawing class every Saturday, and I would highly recommend you join it. It's definitely part of this program, and you don't have to be a beginner to take it. You'll still get something out of it. Here, wait, where's my WhatsApp? Here we go. Come on. Okay, so this is what your drawing should be looking at it like at this point. And then before we get into the total detail, we are once again, nope, I'm going to need to use another color for this. Let's see, let's try green. Oh yeah, you should be able to see that pretty well. And anybody know why we're looking at this in black and white right now?
It's easier to see the values.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to see the darks and lights, and we need to be attuned to those before we jump into color. So once again, we're going to start with this shape, and I want you to look at this shape not just as it exists. Don't try to put it in the center here, because it isn't actually in the center of this object. It's actually closer to this edge. So pay attention to the shapes that are around. Maybe this comes out a little bit farther. Pay attention to the shapes that are in and around it. This thing also isn't in the center, but you might be tempted to put it there. So what I'm trying to do is kind of call out where you might be struggling. See, I have a watercolor pencil. I bet I can outline. Yeah. So as you add in these dark and light shapes, let's see here. As you add the remaining dark and light shapes, pay attention to where things actually are rather than where your left brain wants to tell you they are. Because we think this is the center of the flower, and then you think this is in the center. Then we think this is in the center. But in fact, this is kind of up in this little. And I know I'm going fast. After I get these in, I will stop until everybody else has a chance to catch up. And I know, yes, we are in painting, which is awesome. But as we know, everybody has to be able to draw on some level if you want to paint. I remember when I started painting, I was 30 and I was just sort of abstractly throwing paint around. I couldn't draw at all. And I remember saying to myself, okay, I'm going to be an artist. And then I said to a friend I wanted to be an artist, and she said, do you know how to draw? And I'm like, no. She said, well, are you going to learn? And I remember thinking, do I have to? Is that really what I have to do? And then there's a couple of other lines we're going to add in here just because they'll be easier to see. It's a little bit, this particular printout is a little bit dark. You can see the value shifts better. Just looking to see if there's any other ones. Yep, then there's one down here. So if you can see, anything else? I'm just kind of going around where there are, here, where there are value shifts, where we go from a lighter to a darker value of color. And I'm going to sketch those in too. So wherever the blue lines are. Mm-hmm. And then down here too. All right. And we are not going to worry about the outside. We're going to focus on this flower. You get to make decisions about what you add in the outside after we start to get paint down. So let me take a picture of this and go ahead and send a picture of what you're working on. Don't feel shy about this. I can help you. If you're struggling, that's okay. We don't expect everybody to come to art class. When you're in art class to learn how to do art. So don't feel like you need to totally get this right on the first go. But here is my sample. Okay. Let's see.
Oh, really?
That's Shelly. Nice. Shelly, looking pretty good. Very nice. Very nice. I feel like you've got an extra little bump here. And Shelly, I'm just being like a little anal. So you can ignore this if you want to, but if you want to, I like to help people see what's going on. You have a bump, you have a kind of angle curve here. So what you've got going on is a little bit like this. Can you see that? So really that's just a straight line. So might as well, since we can, since we're here, getting that going. Very nice. Good job. Excellent. Anybody else want to send theirs over? I'm going to grab Shelly while I got you. Shelly, what's your last name?
Liechtenstein.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Sarah. Oh, very nice, Sarah. Good job. I see that your flower is kind of floating. I'm looking to see Sarah, can you take? So there's a couple of things that seem off here. This petal doesn't look, can you see where I'm pointing? This petal looks off. So you have this coming in here and then this gets a little bit lost. There's a big shape down here that you've missed. So go ahead and add that in now. It's easy to kind of skip over areas. See that? I'm outlining it in green. And it comes all the way to the edge. So it comes after this shape, which you have here. There's a whole other petal that you've missed down here. Oh, am I looking at it the wrong way? Maybe that's what's happening.
It's turned sideways.
Yes, that's what's happening. Here, hold on a second. Oh, that's much better. Never mind. I was like, what the hey is going on here? Oh, that's much better. Woo! Jean.
Drawing on, Jean, is that like your sofa?
So Jean, pay attention to this petal.
Prepared yellow one, so.
Jean,
yellow.
Jean, we got work to do.
Okay,
This needs to be extended out further.
okay,
This needs to be a little bit wider this way.
okay.
Okay. Don't forget the drawing. It's easy to get jump ahead. Pay attention to size relative to each other. So as we get better at this, of course, that's what we hope is the thing. And before we go too much farther, I want to do an underpainting in one color. So does anybody have any suggestions? Here are the top colors of the flower. Anybody have some suggestions on what the underpainting color should be? If we were just going to pick one color, what would that look like?
Blue?
Not bad, but not the color we're going to pick.
An orange.
Nope. What is the color? What is the
Green.
complement? Yes. That's exactly right. So we are going to start with a green underpainting. What is an underpainting? All paintings have more than one layer. Well, unless, I mean, there are some, actually, that's not true. Pretty much any painting has more than one layer of paint on it. You're going to see why in a minute if you've never done this before. Even if you have done it, you're going to see it. Because the first layer is kind of watery. And for colors to really have impact and power, we need layers. So we always start with a underpainting. And in this class, we will often start with a values painting that is just one color. And Sandra, can you explain the reason why we pick green for this particular underpainting?
Because it's the opposite color of red, and therefore it's going to make the painting and the colors much more vibrant.
Yes, it's going to pop the colors more. So we'll talk about complementary color pairings in a minute. I'm going to go to color, but right now I'd like you to take Viridian Green. And if you don't have a Viridian green, I want you to get the darkest green that you've got and put it on your palette. I'll label this and send it across. Viridian green. Viridian green is a wonderful color. It's rare because it's a neutral. It can go either warm or cool. It's kind of a green that goes to the blue side. And then let's talk about brushes for a second while you're doing that. You're going to do most of this painting with a very big brush. So you are not going to do your painting with this brush. It's too small. You are not going to do your painting with this brush. It's too small. You're not even going to do your painting with this brush. It's too small. You're going to take the biggest brush you have. We'll move to these brushes after we get our first layers down, but you're going to use a brush which I'm anticipating is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable for you. That's my job, to make you a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yes.
we don't have Viridian, so phthalo or hookers.
Let's try hookers. I mean, actually, that's really interesting. If you want to be experimental, try phthalo. Phthalo's insane. Like, it's an insane color, but it might be beautiful. You can always cover up with more, right? So yeah. There's no like sort of hurt here. All right, so let me show you my setup a little bit because we can't see it always. So I have a container with water here where I'm constantly kind of wetting my brush, but because I want more paint on my brush, I don't want my layers to be watery. I also have like a rag or a paper towel here, which as I'm kind of going through I will squeeze out. So my brush is wet, but it's not dripping. Let's see that again. You can see this here, right? You can see, oops, nope, you can't see it. There we go. You can see the water kind of dripping down, right? I want this to be a little bit less wet than that. And then, what's that? Hold on. Oh, yeah. Oh, Emma. Oh, right. Yes, absolutely. Let me do that right now. I think I can do that. If I have you in my contact list, I should be able to get you in quickly here. That's right. You were in Friday's class.
Yeah.
Last time. Hang on. Here we go. Group info. Emma. Dang, I did not save your number. What's your number, hun? 1
646
646
285
285
3096.
3096. Let's see. Oh, don't. Give me one more second here. I think I can do this if I. Nope. All right, here. Sorry, guys, I'm old. This stuff like undoes me all the time. Group info. Where are you? I'm gonna send you an invite link. I'm gonna share it to. I'm gonna ask you to tell me that one more time. 1646. Tell me again.
285
285
3096.
3096. Okay. You should have the link. Let me know if you don't. All right. So how do we start? We're going to start in the darkest areas of the painting. So I need to get this bad boy back up here so I can see that. I can see it, actually. Let me see if I can organize this. So this is going to go here. This is going to go.
Sorry, I didn't get it. I remember we had this problem last time.
We did. What the heck? I just got it to somebody else. That's like the sort of annoying thing. Here, hold on. You were in US.
I was in Europe.
You were in Europe last week. Let me try sharing it. I wonder why, because I just got Sarah in this way. So anyway, whatever. Let me share this link. I'm going to send it to your email address because I know that's how we got in before. So hang on. And maybe that I have saved in here. Okay. M-A. Nope. Is it Emma? Yep, there we are. Ha! Something's working. There we go. I think I just sent it via Gmail.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to start by loading our big old brush with dark green. And we're going to be going in here and painting the darkest areas with green. And we're going to be kind of moving around the canvas. I'm going to stop here where I made these upper lines because this is a slightly lighter color and I want to reflect that in this painting. So when you're trying to get, particularly in acrylic paint, when you're trying to get more thickness, right, you want to be careful that you have you've loaded your brush, meaning you've got a lot of paint on the brush and you have less water. So your brush needs to be wet, but you want less water because you want it to appear darker. So this area is dark. Let's see. this area. In truth, we could probably go over much of this flower dark, but we're not gonna. We're gonna practice values. We're gonna practice seeing the values. And notice how quickly, as I lay these darks down around my pencil drawing, notice how quickly this starts to come to life. It's kind of fascinating, isn't it? It's like really does quickly come. I think that's why I work from dark to light, even in watercolor and things where people probably shouldn't do that all the time, because I really like seeing the reaction. I'm kind of using the corner here of my brush. So yes, I have a big brush and this is a small area. This doesn't have to be totally neat. It just has to be dark. Okay. So those are the darkest areas. Maybe a little bit down here. Right here. And then when you're done with that, you want to get more water on your brush. Your brush is a little bit runnier. And what happens is you can, when you have more water and less pigment, right? Less paint. I don't know if you can see over here as I'm swirling. My color is lighter. It's a little bit waterier, but that's okay. So can you see the value shift that's happening up here? As I go in, I dip my brush in water. And now I'm coming back in. I might even want to go a little bit darker. So I can actually go in and grab a little bit more paint if I want to get darker. I'm going to start having drips happen. That is totally okay. It's actually awesome. If you've ever seen some of my work, a lot of my work has drips in it, but in any event, you can cover them up on the top layers. But what we want to see is a transition in value. So for those of you who don't know, value is the lightness or darkness of any color. So this is a dark value green, and I like to think about it on a number scale, like on a scale of 1, let's see, 1 to 5, right? 1 being light, 5 being dark. 2, 3, and 4 are kind of gradually getting darker. So 2, 3, and 4. So like we've got, let's see, I can't label that with a thing. Let's see, these are 5s, right? That's 5. This is a 5. 5. These are 5s. And then the next up is like maybe a 4. This is a 4. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4. And then 3s are kind of in here. Threes, right? 3s are here and maybe here. And then 1 is, you know, maybe there's a 2, but there's definitely 1s. Like here's your 1s on the value scale. So your colors, when we pick them, and our base and on others, we're going to want to reflect the difference in value, no matter what color you're using. And here, let me take a picture of this beautiful map because it might be helpful. And also this will be recorded and you can go find it later. And if you find this hard to follow, you can just watch. Everybody will tell you I'm a little bit quick. I try to slow down. There we go.
Leah, I'm
Yes.
running a bit late. So basically it's the same green, but we're just
The
making
same
it
green
lighter.
with just
Okay.
lighter. Yeah, with just more water.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And you might have to fiddle around, like everything with a tool, a different tool, you might have to fiddle around with it a little bit. So I'm coming in here and adding some of my 4s. I am going to want color to go everywhere. So I'm trying to lay this down in order.
And we should continue with that same green for the rest of the petals.
Yes, yes. Although I had this thought that it might be fun to do, and your light areas, in fact, if you want to, you can kind of watery out. You can just get more watery. You can go a little bit darker in your light areas because the light areas actually look great with a bit of dark on them. So in here, you can just kind of brush around. even in there. So you don't have to get into too much nuance. If you feel like you want to, you can like brush in and then take your little paper towel and pull out so that there's still a little bit of color. And then if we want to be fun, you can either do your background as green, as a kind of light green base, or since we've got leaves in the background, we could take some red, like cadmium red. By the way, we're going to be talking about reds today, so be prepared for that. So I could take a little bit of red. So you can either cover the rest of this in green, or you can clean out your brush over here. As you can see, I'm cleaning out my brush. I am pulling this out, and then I'm just taking a bit of red. I want it to be kind of watery and soft. Oh boy, it's all drippy. If you want to, you can take your paper towel and create this kind of cool mottled effect. You do not have to. You have a lot of choices here. I'm just showing techniques. It's not terrible for the red to go dripping in, but and that's happening for me because I'm on a drawing board, because I'm working very watery. So you can do this as a red underpainting, or you can go green. All right, so let me take a picture of this. And then we're going to put it aside to dry. Okay, let's see if I can get this. Aha, so the blue tape will tell you what direction this is actually supposed to be going. So you don't make the same mistake I did when I was looking at Sarah's drawing. Sorry about that, Sarah. Totally casting aspersions on your drawing ability. Not founded. And then we're going to move this to the side. We're going to move this out of the way so that it can dry. And then let's kind of put our palette and a test paper. Well, we should put our palette and this so we can look at the colors. And then I like to have a test palette. It was here somewhere. What did I do with it? Let's see. Here you are. I actually am taking one of these, and I don't know if you guys can see, there's sketches from last week's exercises. I just went over it with gesso twice so that I can do some practice mixing and some practice mark making before I actually go back to my painting. So that was one of the things that people, I think, struggled the most with when I was teaching before. You could watch me in the classroom, but like what was really tough was actually getting a chance to practice. So gesso is this, it's this primer, white acrylic primer. I usually do 2 coats. You can see it doesn't cover everything, but it's not really important because we're just going to be practicing mark making and mixing. And then it's interesting, we are not going to need very many colors for this flower. So what we're going to talk about today is we'll talk about primary colors. I'll move this over here for a minute. And we'll talk about mixing. And we're going to talk about warm and cool today too, because that's also really important. So if you have your palette, if you have palette paper like this, if you can, you're going to put the following colors, if possible, kind of organized around the edge of the palette paper. There's a reason for this. It's easier for mixing if you put everything kind of in order here. And then I'm going to have you put 2 reds down if you've got them. This is cadmium red, and this is quinacridone red. Quinacridone red is also known as, or it could be quinacridone rose. It's also known as permanent rose. If you don't have that, you might put alizarin crimson. But we want a kind of bright orangey red, and we want this cooler quinacridone red. let's see. So we've got this, we've got green. We might need, we'll definitely need white. We might need a little bit of yellow. That might be it. Just to be on the safe side, we're going to put a little bit of, for the actual flower, I'm talking about, not for the background. Let's see. Where's my cad yellow? And I'll talk to you about, if you don't know what all these colors mean, if you need help with something else, let me know. I can always give you an alternative if you don't have that one. Let's see. Oh yeah, very nice, Emma. Super. Before the end of class today, Emma, I'm adding you into my contacts so we don't ever have to go through this again. It'll be easy for me to add you in. I will remember.
My Amanda comment
Oh.
later when I'm done.
Oh yeah, send it over.
All right. See you all. Nice to see everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Gina.
Bye, Gina. Good to see you. All right, so this is a little bit of cadmium yellow. We'll also put, just for the sake of it, because we're going to do a little color wheel stuff, and it might be helpful, ultramarine blue. I'll take a picture and write all this down, don't worry. And then, of course, we're going to need some white. I'm going to put my white kind of over here. So, for the actual flower itself, we are not going to need very many colors at all. We've got, whoops.
Pebbles. Oh my God. Get down.
Quin red, cad red, viridian green, any yellow. This is cad yellow, but you can put any yellow down. And then ultramarine blue. And white. I'll take a picture of this so you can see it. Oh, nice, Shelley. Nice. I like it. So you see how already it's starting to have a little bit of movement, right? Even though everything's very loose, we haven't like done very much. We haven't really done any detail, and it's all still going. All right, so I'm going to take a picture of this palette.
I just have a primary red and a darker red and a crimson.
So you can try the primary red. Which one looks oranger? Primary red?
Primary
Yeah.
red, yeah.
Okay. So primary red will be like your orangier one, your crimson. We'll see how that goes. There's probably a little too much white in it to be as effective, but we'll do what we can. And then I will send you the list of colors that you're going to want, because you're going to want this Quin red. It's fantastic. Quin magenta too. All right. And then
Leah?
when you guys, yes.
So before you mentioned the red background, I had drawn some leaves. Should I just paint those red or?
Just paint the whole thing red. You can still see
What
your
about my
drawing.
leaves?
Yeah, don't worry about the detail of the leaves. I want you to leave that for last. So you have the option of putting them in. So just do kind of a light wash.
So I go over the leaves.
Yeah. A light red wash over the leaves so you can
Okay.
still see the pencil drawing. And then later you'll decide like how much you want to use. Yes, and if anybody else wants to add in background stuff, you can, but you can also do that later in the process. Okay, so let's talk very quickly about, well, I'm gonna do a quick reminder of color theory. There are, and you can do this along with me if you want to, there are 3 primary colors upon which all colors are mixed. We've got blue. We've got, wait, where's my palette knife? Here we go. We've got yellow, right? And then we have red. So I've got 2 reds here. I've got this cadmium red and I have this Quin red. I have a warm red and a cool red. So if I mix a little bit of the warm red with the yellow, I get a very pretty orange. Oh, I need more yellow for that. To really make that orange. You'll notice how little of the darker pigments you need, right? So that's kind of an orangey color, right? And if I mix the Quin red with the blue, I get a beautiful purple. All right. So quickly, because we mentioned this at the beginning of class, I'm going to review this. So these are the primary and then the tertiary. Oh, wait, and then I forgot to mix green here. So I'll mix a little bit of yellow with blue. Here's my yellow. And if I mix a little bit of yellow with blue, I get a green, right? So we've got blue, yellow, red, and then we have orange, purple, and yellow. So these colors, you'll notice these colors are kind of opposite each other on the color wheel. Right? This is red and green. Here's yellow and purple. Here's blue and orange. Okay. So these three color pairings, red, green. Okay, I might have shot this poor marker. Red, green. This one too. Purple, yellow. And blue, orange. These are complementary color pairings. And complementary colors, when you put them next to each other, will pop each other forward. So you'll see a lot of sports teams with these color combinations. Obviously, red and green is Christmas. That's designed to kind of pop forward, right? So when you put these color combinations next to each other, they pop forward. If you mix them together, they create the shadow version of the other. So when we go in to mix the dark shadow of this tulip, this red tulip, we are not going to use black. We are going to mix green and red together to make a dark color. So you'll always mix your complements together. And what we've done here is layer the complement, right, with our piece here, although they will be kind of on top of each other because this layer will be dry by the time that we finish working on it. The reds will sit on top of it and we'll let a little bit of green come through and you'll see there'll be a popping forward of those colors. So that's the theory behind that.
Sorry, Leah.
What?
Isn't it going to make a red flower on top of a red background?
The backgrounds are green. You're going to
But you
change your
said to do a
you're
light
going to
red
change
one.
you're going to change your background color.
Oh,
And you
okay,
get to change it how you want to. So I made it red because there are green leaves back here and I thought some people might want to add green leaves in their background. So yeah. So here's what I want you thinking about. When we're looking at this red, you'll notice there are two reds here and they do very different things. If you want to try it, try mixing a little cadmium red with ultramarine blue. And you'll see that you get a very yucky purple. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a purple. I'd call it a kind of a mauvey brown. And if you mix quinacridone red with yellow, you're going to get a, keep running out of yellow. You're going to get a orange that's cooler. It's not so fiery and warm. So it's important when you're trying to decide what color you want. If this is kind of cooler or this is warmer. If you look at these in the color wheel, the quinacridone, the cooler red, leans closer to blue. And it may or may not have a lot of blue in it, but the color, but this red this cool red has a more blue tint in it, and the cadmium red has more yellow tint in it. So when you're thinking about mixing colors, it's important to think, if you cross mix, if you mix a warm color with a cool color, you will get a slightly different mix, right? You can see, look at the difference in this. Oh, you can't really see it here. I'll take a picture and you'll be able to see it. You can see the difference between the two oranges. I'm sending it over right now. One is very pinky. The other is more yellowy orange. Here we go. East Coast. There we go. So you can see this one is more of a kind, this is using a cool red, and this one is using a warm red. So this orange is a lot different. This purple is just gross. This purple has much more of a purpley, the way we think of this beautiful, deep, rich purple color. That's what's happening. So you can't just throw any red or any blue or any green or any yellow together. So the question becomes, whether this is a cool or a warm flower? Warm red. Anybody have thoughts on that?
It's a cool one.
It's definitely on the cooler side. Although I think it's probably going to be, believe it or not, a mix between the two. So it's not like super fire engine red, right? Like that.
It's got some pinkish purple in it.
Yeah,
So
it's
blue.
definitely, I agree. It's definitely more of a cool red. So we're going to be leaning more on our cool red. We might mix in a little bit of warm red. We're going to be, you could mix a bit of warm red in with your cool just to kind of shift it a little bit in places. But yeah, I'd say generally this is a more pinkish color. So you're going to start with this, and then your first practice mix, which I'd like you to try on the palette here, and then we're going to sample here, is you're going to mix some Viridian green in with your quinacridone or your cool red to mix it dark. And the value is going to be really dark. You should get kind of a beautiful burgundy dark here. So try mixing that, and then try laying it on your sample palette here, on your sample here. Try laying that color. And if you feel like when you lay it down, it's too red, right? Try laying that down. You can add more green. Yeah, that's a beautiful dark. Here, let's see. So our first mix is going to be for the darkest values on the flower is going to be cool red plus Viridian green. And we want it to be pretty dark in value, like that. As we get lighter, we're going to be sticking with our red here, but we might add a touch of the cadmium red, the warmer red, into our cooler red as we get it a little bit lighter. And then of course we'll be using white. As we get to the areas sort of towards the edge, we'll be blending a little bit of white in with our red. Yeah, I think that's actually what's happening. So the last thing we're going to talk about is, before we get started, is hard and soft edges. Once again, I know, right? Like I've been going for an hour already and I'm barely talking about the painting, but this is important to talk about this stuff. So I'm doing it. We have talked about the two types of edges in painting, and you can try these while I do them. Take any dark color and then any light color lay them next to each other. So we can really see a shift, right, in value. This is what we would call a hard edge. And then the other type of basic stroke that is in painting, it starts the same. Let's use a yellow so we can really see it. It starts the same with the edges right next to each other, but I want to get rid of this hard line. So I start blending. And notice I'm taking a little bit more paint, light paint in and blending this edge so that there's a transition from light to dark, but I don't see a straight line like up here. So practice that a little bit. What's actually nice about tulips is that there is some hard edges. It's a flower with what we call structure, which means that there are more hard edges. The last two assignments I gave you, when we did a tree and we did clouds, no hard edges at all, virtually none. It was all, and notice when I'm going from turning a hard edge into a soft one, I'm often going perpendicular. I'm tapping, I'm loading my brush with light paint so it doesn't get too dark. There might be a transition. I'm sort of softening this line by tapping, by going the opposite. So these are vertical lines. I'm going horizontally as I'm trying to get rid of that straight line. So go ahead. You can either do this with your mix. Just take two colors and practice that a little bit. There are both hard and soft edges here, but there are more hard edges, thank God.
So Leah, what color do you think the background will end up with?
You get to decide that.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you anything. I'll decide something. You can go along with me, or you can make decisions based on, it'll be based a lot on how your painting is looking and how you want to push things. Turquoise might be a nice like color. Because it's greenish and it'll pop things forward. You may want to add some leaves in and then try and go with what's happening in the painting. That's going to be up to you. And it's totally thinking you making decisions based on what you need. But what I want you guys to do is practice and go ahead and send me some of your pictures of your practice so I can see them. Those of you who are new to this particularly, I'd like to see yours. And oh, let me take a picture of the hard and the soft edge and send it over to you so you can really see this. Hard and soft edge is huge. Let's see. Nice, Emma. Beautiful. That's beautiful. A great soft edge. Lovely. We'll be doing soft edges as we're transitioning from our shadows to our lighter or significantly lighter red parts of the flowers. So that's a good one to practice. Let's see, Shelley. Not bad, Shelley. So Shelley, in your hard edge, you need to have them right up next to each other. There's no space in between them. They're right next to each other. Yeah, nice soft edge. Jean, I am seeing your hard edge on your soft edge area. That's the one on top. It's supposed to be soft. Hard edge is good. The one on top, you need more work. I can see a straight line here. So don't be afraid to get both sides. Here's the thing about acrylic, it dries fast. So you may have to go back and re-wet both sides with paint. Remember, the hard and soft edges are like the knit and the purl. You know, if you're a knitters, any of you are knitters, but it's like knitting and purling. I'm going to let you guys practice this for just a minute, and then I'm going to be popping off. And please let me know, you guys, if I'm repeating too much. I don't want to repeat too much, but I want to make sure. I know people are coming into this at different places and times, and I want to make sure we're all talking. So the other thing is, if you hear me use a term and you don't know what I mean, please tell me. Let's see. Sarah, nice. Nice soft edges. The one on the bottom right, Sarah, I can still see I can still see a line, a straight line between the yellow and the sort of black. So you might want to scum that out a little bit, but I really like what's happening on the top. Before I forget
Okay.
that. And so, and by the way, guys, this is also, I am, thinking a lot about your health here as we're going through all this, although things are maybe possibly starting to look up. So this might be a good moment to notice how you feel right now. We're going to check again at the end of class, but just like observe to yourself. And if you're frustrated, that's totally fine. That's a valid feeling. Actually, that's a great feeling to have, like in the middle of class, or if you're feeling great or anything, just kind of notice that. Also, do what you need to do in terms of this Zoom screen. So you can see what's nice here is that you can actually focus on things. You're looking a bit, but you're not like totally looking. Here we are. Okay. We got Sarah. I have Shelly. All right, where's them? Yeah, Emma, we're going to have to do some things to get your colleagues excited about these classes. What are we going to do?
They are excited. They're just like,
There's just so much work. There's so much work to do right now. There's so much work.
They're not used to like, they're just not used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm on the union bargaining committee, so I'm used to like going into kind of separate from work Zooms either during the workday or right after.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people are not.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Okay, so I will email. I'm going to email. Well, wait. I mean, there's plenty of time for people to get into it, so I'm not worried about it. Like, absolutely. Oh, I see all of you over on Signal, which is actually probably the better messaging system now.
Eva,
Really has been discouraging people from using WhatsApp because it has so many security issues.
Okay,
yeah.
I have spent so long building these threads. We may move to Signal, but not yet. So.
I mean, listen, like if Facebook wants to sell our data about painting for profit, like that's their prerogative.
Hey.
Just kidding. But
So what were you
Eva,
saying? You were saying Eva. Yeah.
Yeah, she helped organize this.
Yes.
Partnership, right? So she just created a Slack room today and invited anybody who expressed interest in joining these classes. So I think that'll help.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And I think it's a thing, right? It took us time, right? Janet and Jean and Grant, like we built up these classes at Reuters over a 4-year period. And I think it started with like back 4 years ago with like, I don't know, 6 people being excited about it. And then slowly over time, we added people on. So don't worry, it'll happen. And whatever I need to do, you guys let me know. Good, Sarah, good.
Grove interest was when we did the show.
Yeah, yeah, we will do a show. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a show this year, you guys, in November. Be ready. It's pretty awesome.
I did that last year.
Anybody who's in these classes gets to be in the show. So don't you worry. All right, so now my painting is dry. I'm gonna come back here And I'm going to start mixing my color for, now you'll notice I'm using my brush because I know what I want to, I know what I want to do. And I want my picture here. Let's see, where do I put this? Put this right here so I can see it. And you guys also have this on the WhatsApp thread, so you can see it if in better form than this. This is just a printout, but I'm going to actually do what I did before. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over my dark areas with this kind of darker red, and every once in a while getting my paintbrush wet, but remembering that I'm wanting to cover more, so I don't want my brush to be too dripping.
Leo, what was in the darker red, please?
Just the green and the cool red.
Dark red.
Yeah. The green and the cool red.
Like carmine red, maybe. Move away.
Not, I mean, I thought we talked about this at the beginning. So either not carmine red. It should be either quinacridone, it should be a cool red. So it should be a red with blue in it. Ideally, it would be quinacridone red or permanent rose or quinacridone rose. If you don't have it, you can do a lot with alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson can also work, but it's a little bit dark. Yeah. So I'm just using all these colors that I practice missing. Is it helpful for you guys to do sort of a little bit of practice before we go in? We're going in to the painting. You can see here, I'm creating this kind of nice thread. I might add a little blue, ultramarine blue, to my green and red mixture for these little dark dots so that they have a little bit more of a blackish look here too. You might end up having to do those over again. Anyways, this is where we're at. And then if you can quickly, so I'm cleaning my brush to get out as much as possible. I'm going to start with some quinacridone red and maybe a touch of my cadmium red in here. And I'm going to lay that down here. So a little bit like the way we did that hard edge, right? I'm going to come up to about here. And then while this is still wet, both sides are still wet, I'm going to brush in. So see, this is where it's really helpful to have a big a brush. And if I feel like my dark doesn't read as dark enough, I'm going to lighten this a little bit with a little bit more cad red. Oop, that's really light, too light. I'm not going to use white, by the way, to lighten. So if I want to really push those values, so I'm going to create a soft edge here between the light and the dark side of every petal. Except for this one. These ones down here, we don't really see. There's a little bit of a lighter red in here. We'll get there, but let's focus on the outer petals. So these top petals first, as you can see. So once again, I'm getting in here and I'm kind of softly dragging. Can you see that? I'm sort of softly dragging my lighter red. Oops. Over my darker red, and they both need to be wet for this to really work. So, oops, my brush is too wet, so I'm squeezing it off. So you see here, oh, the key is that when I'm making this transition within these petals from dark to light, my edges are soft. And if this feels hard, that's okay. If you have to go back and forth, that's okay. If you have to re-wet things, that's okay. Go for it. If there's this kind of middle section that's sort of halfway between lighter and darker, that's also okay. That's kind of what's happening in the flower. I'm kind of ignoring this little white strip that's happening here now. I'm going to add it in later. And then the same thing is happening down here. I can already see that my dark has dried. So I'm going to go back in, get a little bit more dark here on this last petal and re-wet it like that. And then go ahead and add in. There's a light part on top I want to be careful about, but this bottom part here, absolutely. Oh, and down here, of course. So I'm going to have to do the same thing down here. I'm going to have to darken this. I'm going to have to wet this again. When we get to, in about 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to shift over these demos to oil painting. You can continue on in acrylic if you want. You do not, I'll still be able to walk you through the steps. Or you can move over to oil, or you can move to oil now, if that's what you prefer. So you see, I'm constantly, yeah. I'm really finding that this blend, mostly cool, but a little bit of red, a little bit of warm red is really working well for this flower.
Sorry, I'm way behind, but what's the mix for the lighter red?
It's just the cool red and then a touch of the warm red in it. And if you want to lighten it, even more warm red. So in my case, that's cadmium red and quinacridone red. So it would be like a little bit of your, mostly your pink. And then mostly your pink and then a touch of the warm red just to lighten it up a little bit. Jeez. So that we have this kind of beautiful, soft thing. Let's see. And then we can add that in, that color in here too. And that's okay to be behind. It's better to watch. I go fast. And the reason I'm going fast is I want to have enough time to show you how to do this and then be able to look at your sketches and your drawings. Notice I'm able to do all of this with a very big brush. A little bit more red. Every once in a while, I'm leaning over into my, and look at what happens to this red as we lay it on top of this dried green. It's already got a bit of a vibration. It feels rich and beautiful and dark. And that's because the green is kind of influencing the red. It's pushing the red forward a little bit and giving it a kind of richness it wouldn't have. If I just lay red, like straight red, look at this. If I lay straight red on here, look at the difference between this and this. This is a deep, rich red that's sitting on top of the green underpainting. I'll take a picture of this to show you guys. I should stop anyway, so here. Here we go. This is where we're at. This little red mark here is just the red on top of a red wash. And you can see it just doesn't have the oomph that this one does, the one that's sitting on top of the green. Also, it's already looking pretty. Very nice. Go ahead and I will slow down for a second. You guys catch up with me. Send me pictures as you're working. Notice the order in which we are working. We are not starting with the center. That's the last thing we're doing. We are not starting with the lightest areas. We are not starting with small shapes and details. We're starting with the darkest, biggest transitions. Once we get those in with our big brush, we can start working with a smaller brush to add more details in. The biggest mistake that beginners make is they go right for the detail and they start working that area. Just like building a house or a box or a table, a painting has to be constructed in a similar way. That means we start with the biggest, simplest shapes first and the biggest light dark transitions, these. Afterwards, we work detail. But I feel like that's kind of the opposite of the way we're taught to think about it, right? Or the way we instinctively think about it, which is to go right to the detail, try to get every detail right, and then go forward. There's a lot of problems with that model. It doesn't work very well. Number one, you often make things too big. And by the way, if you feel like this layer is a little bit dark, that's okay. We can go back in and lighten. So we will ultimately add our lightest layers on top, unless you end up liking it a little bit dark. Let's see. That's nice, Shelley. These are going to be white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but we can totally layer whites on top.
That's what I kind of figured, because
Yeah.
I made a mistake. It's that I covered them.
And then you went, no, wait, this is totally going to be fine. Yep, that'll be perfect. That'll work. It's pretty. You may want to lighten up here a little bit, your light area.
Okay.
Right? Go over with a little bit. You can add a little bit more light red, a warm red into for another layer so that it kind of pops a little bit more. But I really like this. Are you happy with it? Looks wonderful.
Yeah.
It's coming along, right? We're
Yeah,
getting
it's
there. We're getting somewhere.
Uh-huh.
The other thing that people really have to get is that your painting is going to look awkward for a while. So really learning to, because we're using this model, we don't get to the detail as fast as people would like. And so that is a tricky thing to, that is a thing to talk yourself out of. Like
So we have
it has to
embrace the ugly. Is that what you're saying?
yes, embrace the awkward is what I'd like to say. This is very awkward right now, right? It's not ugly. I would not call it ugly, but I would say it's awkward. It's like 13 years old. We have no 13-year-olds in this class. No, no, we do not. It's like, it's like the sort of, I don't know, teenager of the equation.
I would say mine's ugly.
Yeah. But it might not be as ugly as you think it is.
True.
I hope my painting isn't as ugly as I think it is.
Rarely is our paintings as ugly as we think they are.
Oh,
And sometimes
you'd
when we
be
think, oh,
surprised.
June, that's beautiful. That's not ugly at all. It's lovely. It's very nice. I do think your green is a little, your dark is a little, maybe a little too green. So you might want to mix another.
Well, remember I did the phthalo green, remember?
Oh, that's right. But I like it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway, I guess my
put more
point
red on
is
top of it.
with the phthalo green, you're going to use a lot less green in your red for a dark mixture. So
I'm
you're
using a lot
not
blue.
stuck with like mixing half green, half red. Just
Yeah.
use a touch of, just bring little touches of the phthalo is really intense.
I was doing green and blue and red to get my dark. And
Okay.
it still came out really green because
Yeah,
that
so blue, the blue won't help you. It really has to be a mostly red with some green in it. So, oh, Emma, beautiful. Lovely. I like it. Okay. If you want to, you can switch to a smaller brush for this area, these areas in here, but it would still be good for it to be flat. And I feel like you guys are starting to get the motion of this. There's a kind of a, so we can start adding in our white elements. Let's see, let me put this here so you can really see it. So we can start adding in this kind of little pink layer in here, right? And we can start, and that kind of gradually turns a little bit white. It's actually really only white here and here. The rest of it is pink. So you can mix a bit of white with your pink and maybe a touch of green as well in here. And then out here, you can just add white. So go ahead and start going into here. I'll do it while we're doing it. So I'm going to do pink. I'm going to do white. And then I'm going to add a touch of green into my pink down here. And I'm just going to, whoop, and I see when I lay that down, it's got to be a little bit whiter. So you see, I'm kind of, and now I'm like, it needs to be darker. A lot of times you're going in. There we go. And also, here's where we get to start seeing the separation of the petals. I can see that to make this guy pop out, I need to have kind of a little lightish thing around the whole edge. Here's where we see the kind of petals edges as they come down. Can you see these little dark edges? So you can add those in if you can see them too. I might just leave them in by painting around.
What are you using to get that color?
This is my cool red, a touch of green, and white. So I'm still using a kind of a shaded green because this part area in here is a little bit more shaded. But it's lighter, so I'm tinting it with white, and cool, so I'm tinting it with white. I might go back over this with a little bit of warmer red later, but right now, let's see. Yeah, really needs to be a cooler. So there's a slight bit of green even in this lighter area too, because it's in shadow. Oops. Somehow I got some red in my, warm red in my mix here. Oops, more white, more white. And you'll see you might have to go back and forth between the right value. And then in here, everything okay over there?
Yeah, a picture fell off the wall.
Oh,
It's okay.
all right. Here is where things, on this side is where things start to get lighter, actually more proper white. So you could actually even kind of blend in just a slightly pinky white here, just around the edge of this. Can you see that? How everything else is a darker. It's not like it's all the same color. Here. And I also really see that this pink helps define the dark stamen. And maybe some areas have to get a little bit darker. So here's where you start to nuance a little bit more, right? Here's where you start to pay attention to transitions. And there we go. Oh yeah, and there is a kind of a lighter. If you look at this, actually, when I look closely at this, I can see this is where I start to get into my details. I can also see this is a little bit lighter. I feel like this area has a touch, it's white with a touch of orange. So I might go back to my initial, might get a little bit of yellow. I mean, it's not a lot, right? It's only this one little, it's that little star. And it's a lot of white, but more yellow tinge to it. So you can see we have yes, and I think that's what's working. And as I do this, I start to pay attention to how these dark areas kind, you know, these little dark, these dark things kind of relate to my little star. I can go back in and darken those if I feel like I've lost them. So it becomes this little game of values, making sure that your darks and your lights and your mediums, everybody, is anybody into this yet? I'm thinking this is really, this is the fun part. And you can use a lighter brush for this. And then there is the stem in here, which has which is mostly kind of green. It's like red here, but it's got a bit of green. So it's a little bit, this is a little too red. Whoa, way too red. I'm going to mix a little bit of green in with my red and some white. So it's a red color. Way too dark there, but I'll get it in. And then as well, these little stems that are sticking out, they're a little bit darker. Maybe I'll put some of this orange color in here too. Or maybe I will wait till it dries so I can go back in and lighten it the way it needs to be lightened. You might find you lose an area and you have to go back in and find it. You need an even smaller brush. You need a little pointy brush like this one to go in here. Right? I kind of lost my orangey thing here. And so this is where we start to get into the detail a little bit more. I can see I need to get lighter here. It's got to be pink, but lighter. Also notice your colors will tend to dry a little bit faster, darker. So you might have to go back and lighten them a little bit. That is not a mistake in your application. That's just kind of what happens. Paints dry, particularly acrylics, but I think all paints dry a bit. So you see, you'll start to notice the values, the value shifts, the minute ones a lot more as you start to get into this section. And of course, we don't want to forget, gosh, I hope I didn't give us a project that we can't get done. If you don't finish it, that's totally okay. We can keep going, you know, I might go a little bit longer. We can also come in over the top here with our whites. You can even start like I am with a lighter pink. Here, wait, where I need more white. And here we're dealing with much harder edges. So these whites, these kind of curled up areas, they are very, oh, there's a little bit of pink in there, tiny bit. This is a tiny bit redder. It's not exactly white all the way across. I could start with kind of a dark clear. Shelly, so here's where that will be effective for you, right? Is you're gonna put white, not exactly everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can let some of that darker red maybe peep through. Oh yeah, now my painting looks like a mess. But it will not, I promise it won't. I promise we'll pull out of this together. We'll pull out of this painting. So you see, Sandra, this is also partly where I was like, you may just be totally focused on this flower. And you may just want to make a kind of a background color. Once I lay in the lights here, I'm going to actually go in with my background, even though I'm not totally done with my painting, because I feel like if I don't get a background in, I'm not really going to know what I need to do with the rest of my painting. There we go. So watch what happens here. Just because I know this is the quick and easy fix, I'm going to pop some teal on my, if you happen to have it, that's great. If not, don't worry. I have an artist friend that once did a Google search to see like what paintings sold, what search terms sold the most for people who were searching for art to buy online. And the answer he got was turquoise art. Something like that was like the top thing. So if I don't want to get into any detail, look at what I can do here. I can get, and I'm going to add a little, I'm going to green it up a little bit. I'm going to make it more yellow. Yeah, there we go. So if I don't feel like getting into a lot of detail, look what happens as I start to add just a simple plain background in. In fact, I really like that green. And of course, I'm using that same principle of complementary colors for my outside, because if I mix a little bit of yellow with this green, it really reads. So look what happens to this part. Look at this, look at the part of the painting when I add the background in. Look at the difference there. I mean, it's like night and day. For those of you who are kind of new to paint, it's going to be easy to get nervous about going to the edge. I see a lot of people start their backgrounds back here when they're not worried about getting anything on there. I'm going to encourage you to use a flat brush and then this technique. Go right up to your edge, lay the flat brush right at the edge here because we're doing a hard edge, and just pull back, right? So you're not worried about, you'll get better with your brush and kind of handier as you practice with it more. So try just doing this and dragging backwards, loading your brush with paint, nice flat brush.
Oh, that's easier. Thank you.
Go right, that helps, right? Like I was like,
Yes,
that's
sir.
actually a thing.
As opposed
We're
to
like,
coming forward.
yes, yes. And I mean, you still might have to go back over and repaint some of your flower, which is totally fine, but like try this flat drag back. And by the way, you guys, I was thinking next week, I had a couple of thoughts. One was that we might try to do grasses, or we might try a mountain. Is anybody mountains, you know, like a mountain range?
And maybe we
Grasses?
do the mountain in the background.
Well, if you see how long it takes us to paint, we might try it. If I can find a simple one, I'll do a simple mountain with grasses, but it's more likely we're going to do one or the other, focus on one or the other, one each week. And Sandra, I was thinking about trees for beginning drawing. Does that sound good?
Again?
We haven't done it.
Oh, we did a cut.
We did not do. Last week you were asking me for trees.
Yes, I would like to get an idea
about
the kind of texture to get to pretend that it to
make
the leaves. I'm having trouble with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're probably focusing too much on detail, but like, so look at that. Probably. Look at what that does to my painting. So now I can kind of go back in and start figuring out what details my painting needs. So there is a point when your painting is about, I don't know, 2/3 done. Here, let me stop and take a picture of this so you guys can see where we're at. And then I love you. I don't want to, and I could keep working on this. I feel like I don't quite have it yet, but so I'll keep working along with you. But if you want me to look at your painting, send me something and I can give you some advice on brushwork, marks. Also, you might notice I kind of get a little bit brusque in my, I often will go right to the thing that's wrong, right? And start focusing on that. So I want you to know, if I do that, do not, you can, you know, you can demand that I tell you what I like about this painting, which is also
focus on the good bits.
I know, right? Like I'm like, and it's terrible. It's just a terrible habit. It's like, let's just go right to the thing that's wrong and fix it. But I will try to remember to tell you the things that are working as well. So here's where you can go in, by the way, and start to look at, like, you can see a little bit of red here, right? In a soft edge where the flower kind of folds up. And then here I can come in and really strengthen the hard edge between the light and the dark shapes here. Here is where we start to get a little bit more detail. You can start to get a little bit more detailed. Oh, and I can see there's not really that much. Ooh, Shelly, nice. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
It's beautiful. So now just start adding sort of some more of the details in here. It's very light down here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like, you can work there's some areas. I realize I had too much red here, so I'm going to, white here, so I'm going to pull that back here, kind of like that. See how I can reshape like that?
Yeah.
You as well. Now you can start going around and working the details. There are these hard white areas that really define this flower against the green background. So that's what you really want to work on. Keep working on, it's really edges, right, that we're working on.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not at all expecting that you paint something that looks like mine, any of you. I'd rather you paint the way you do, but using the techniques helps. So these techniques are meant meant to produce a range of results. There is not just one way to do this, and you'll find this out as you see people. So see, this edge is a little bit ragged. So I'm coming in and adding a little bit more. Janet, how's that chicken coming along? Is she gone?
You're doing a chicken?
She is doing this crazy surrealist painting that's just outrageous. I love it. Do we have no Janet? Did she leave?
Or commission or?
No.
Hmm.
Just for fun. Oh,
For
no,
fun.
Janet. Jeez. All right. Well, we'll have to ask about the crazy chicken afterwards. Anyway, it's not just a chicken. There's a whole thing happening. There's a model, there's a person in it, there's a bench, there are many flowers that turn into suns. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on there. It's amazing. Every time she sends me another version of it, I'm like, oh. By the way, here's where you could add in something like this edge, right? See how this is the point. And then I want to make sure that my darks are in here. So here's where you start going back in with your darker colors, and you start kind of playing with the edges where one edge meets another. Oops, don't lean on your painting like I just did. All right, so we may not absolutely finish this painting like 4 o'clock, but we will get as close as we can. Ooh, Sandra, are you doing this in pastel or in paint?
No, you know what I'm using? I'm using acrylic gouache.
Ooh.
For the first time, and I love it, but
I love it.
the things that went wrong, like the red background underneath the blue is a complete mess.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think so at all. I think it looks amazing. I actually love it. I think it would be Jean, really nice. I think it would be very boring without that blue. I think that works totally. So that's just so here's a very interesting statement, because we've talked about it a lot, Sandra, is I want you to think about really your definition of mess, right? Like, what is a mess, right? What is chaos? What is order? Like, I sometimes think that I really love that. I love the way your background look. It makes me very happy. Woo!
Oh, good.
Grant, nice work. So Grant, you'll notice what happened is you totally lost your light, right? You lost your lights.
Yeah.
And you can't get them back. There's no getting them back. So that's the difference, is that you can't paint over with watercolor and expect, you've got to preserve your lights.
Right.
But
I'm still trying to get a handle on mixing the watercolors. I definitely,
and it looks to
made
me
things darker than I thought.
Although in some ways your flower is a lot lighter. So you could go over those darker areas like that. Like if you look at the comparison between yours and Sandra's, yours really, I don't think your dark is really dark enough. It's not reading as dark, right?
Yeah.
As dark as it. So you can actually go in and darken your darks more. But you know, decent experiment. And you can
Do you
keep
think that? Sorry, do you think that you could send a picture of the reference of the?
It is in there.
It's in the thread.
It's in the thread.
It is?
Maybe perhaps
At the
you
beginning.
joined later. Let me resend it.
Yeah.
Let
I think
me-
it's because I joined later.
Here, hold on. Let me do that now. Here it is.
I must say, Grant, I admire you for doing watercolors because I've been dabbling with them yesterday and today, and it's very hard.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing with them yet, but
I did,
Some of
let me show you
the,
what I
oh
did.
yeah, show what you're, yeah, take a picture, Sandra, send it over.
They're ugly. Shall I send? Okay,
Yeah,
I
send
did
it.
2 of them.
I bet you we aren't gonna agree on that either. I bet you I'm gonna like
Uh,
it and you're gonna
I
think it's
realize how
ugly.
much skill, I think I'm not very skilled with a brush.
That is normal, right? Because we're learning how to like, the brush is a totally different animal than a
It's
charcoal.
harder than I thought.
I think you're doing pretty well, actually. I'm kind of appreciating your brush strokes. So I think,
Wait till you see the lines.
okay, let's see.
I just,
Notice there's kind of a little light edge. So anywhere you go and see an edge, look and see what's kind of happening at that edge. That's where you play. And the edge is where a lighter area meets a darker area. That's where we start to add our detail in, build our details in. I'm kind of working around some of these. This could go on and on too, you guys. Like you could just keep doing this. Let's see.
coming. There you go.
Ooh, wait a minute. What are you talking about? These are amazing.
Really? Oh,
See,
I was so disappointed. They make it-
your assessment of your work is we've got to rethink this. These
Those are
are
great.
nice and loose. They're beautiful. I mean, I could see some things that bother you about them. I can see that there are some things, but these read beautifully, Sandra. I think these are a wonderful attempt. And
I
we'll
found,
get, huh?
I found the eyes, where it's much harder to do than in pastel.
Oh, that's true. That's true,
And,
because you can't go over them.
I showed them to my brother and he said they look like cartoons, so I have to agree that there's things wrong with them. I found that, when you look at watercolor, I can't sleep at night sometimes, so I look at videos of watercolors and they make it look so easy and it looks so fantastic. And then my brush stroke, like the Lion the right was my first one, it's watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
The one on the left is watercolor and gouache mixed, and I couldn't even tell which color was what because some of my tubes had dried. I'm using sets like
Right.
from 30 years ago.
Right.
But yeah,
I think
it
it's
needs a lot of
all
work.
it's just technique, Sandra. It's just technique. And the technique of watercolor is very specific and very different from what we're doing now. So it will, when we get to watercolor in April, which we will, you will see there's a whole, it's an entirely different, that's why I told Grant, you can do watercolor, but what I'm talking about doesn't really apply to watercolor.
When we do watercolors, I want to do things like goats and chickens and lions.
Sure. We'll do them all. We'll do it all. So yeah, the tool is a very different kind of tool. So getting it to do what you want it to do is tricky. All right.
And of course, the thing is, when you mess up it, you can't really fix it.
That's in a way, yes. Right. Unless you learn how to start so that you can fix it. Right.
So
there
very
are ways,
light washes, presumably.
Yeah. Well, you just start lightly.
Right.
So that you can, if you mess up, when you mess up, you'll be able to go back over. Now these guys are starting to look pretty. You can see how this is like an endless, like it never ends, right? Like it just keep going back over. There's more details to be added. I do feel that this painting has gone from awkward to looking okay. And I can tell by where you guys are. Here, what time are we at? We're at 4:55. Okay, let's go an extra. We took a minute or two to introduce. Let's go an extra 5 or 10 minutes because I feel like you're all in painting flow now. In about 5 minutes, 5 minutes, or let's say 5 or 8 minutes, I'm going to have you send over where you're at. Let's see. Oh, pretty, Sarah. So pretty. Yeah. Nice.
Still in some awkward stages.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. You know, as usual, I'm like not so good at figuring out what I can get done in 3 hours. So that's
Let alone two.
partly me. Let's see. Oh, wow. Beautiful, Emma. Beautiful. Yeah, and you can keep working. So you can keep working this center area, right? We can keep pushing. Notice one of the things that I did here that really helped, I think, is that I outlined here. Let me show you what I did. This can be really helpful. I actually outlined with kind of a dark pink this piece with a dark line like this. And then I went in over with a lighter color and I went almost right up to the edge of the line and I kind of covered it a little bit. But can you see how defined it is? We can't really see the line, but we can, and you can do that with any area you want to fully define. So
Do you have to wait until it dries before you go
Nope.
back to the edge?
nope.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's going to dry in like 5 minutes. So, you know, but no, you don't have to. Go on in there and work it. See if you can get it to do what you want it to do. So now I'm going to come in here and work these edges a little more, which require some finesse. And I also think they require a little bit of showing the petals coming in. So if you can see a petal line, like there's one here, right? So if you can do a hard edge, so actually there's a lot of hard edges to this flower. So if you can do kind of a hard edge right here, I think showing the petal lines really helps define these flowers. Ooh, Shelly, yum. You happy? That's looking lovely.
Thank you.
Getting there?
Yeah, somewhat.
Getting to happy?
Yeah.
I know. This painting really could use probably another hour of work at least. So if you don't get it exactly to where you want to by the end of our class, don't worry. Just keep working on it. And it will. But I feel like it's really starting to, I like how you're working your edges there. So can you guys see? Here it is. There's a line here. Then there's a kind of a line here where the petal comes in. And usually the line means there's a light area on one side and a dark area on the other. So as you start to define those, I think it'll help pull the petal out. What I really like, Shelly, about yours is the lights being down here and it being darker up here. That really works well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a couple
Oh,
more.
yeah, but really nice, Shelly.
I think it turned out well.
It looks
But
like a
there's more to
flower.
go, so just keep working. If you want advice on what to do, let me know. But if you know what to do, just do it. If you
I'm
feel
kind of
like,
just piecing it out.
yeah, that's essentially what that's a great way to put it. Piecing it out. You're in little pieces. You're doing your lights, your mediums, and your darks. So this is the point, right? After we've laid the basics out, when we are going to start doing I can see I've actually, all my paint has dried. I've got to get more. When you can start to do the detail work. I also really like, Shelly, how you got some nice light and cool and warm reds kind of working together.
Thank you.
I think that worked well. By the way, Emma, I really love the lines of this. You may, Emma, want to make this a softer edge. So right now, this is quite a hard edge. So you may want to re-wet this dark side and blend in a little bit more like what's happening here, right? To really get that transition. This is not as you see here, this is not a hard edge. This is a soft edge. The red comes right in here and kind of blends. There's kind of this medium area, and then it kind of transitions into dark. Right now, this is too hard an edge. So soft edges are really hard. They're like so hard. So don't feel bad if you don't get them all right away. That is a practice thing. Soft edge is like the wax on, wax off. Of like the painting world. It's like you have to keep doing it over and over again, and every time it's got to be good, and yada yada. So and look at the source, right? Don't hesitate to look at the source as you're working on these. I can see, oops, I can see my dark got a little too, there we go, wide there. And even in here, there's a lot of back and forth. Anyway, speaking of less chaos, everybody looking forward to a much more boring 4 years?
Oh, hell yes. Oh, yeah. I think
I'm like,
journalists are exhausted right now. After
what's
4
that?
years of mayhem, journalists are completely exhausted, particularly Washington journalists. 4 years of mayhem.
Yeah,
It's like constant news, hard news.
Fucking crazy town. It's just been like
chaos.
crazy.
I mean, it's like nonstop.
Wasn't it nice to like turn on your phone this morning and not be worried about what it was going to tell you?
Yeah. Oh my effing God, yes. Yeah. Jesus, what a hell of a time. But we've learned some things. We've learned what a terrible country the US is in many ways now, right? Like, we've totally learned like what racist, horrible people like a lot of Americans are. I'm laughing and because it's so sad. Well, you know what they say, it's always better to know the real situation rather than to lie to yourself about what's going on. Mm-hmm. That's the first step. Know how bad it is. Now we know.
Yes.
We know how bad it is.
And so does the whole world. That's a problem.
Well, I think that's good.
At least some of us have the decency to be embarrassed about it.
I have always been embarrassed by America. At the same time that like I love America, I've always found America really embarrassing, but
sometimes it's difficult not to, but yet
it has something
so admired around the world.
Not anymore.
The culture, yeah, but not the politics, but the culture.
But the culture, yeah.
You know,
but maybe
music,
not so much anymore.
I think still, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. God, you can just keep working on this thing.
Stop here.
Anyway, this is nice. We're in a mostly U.S. audience. When on and Friday mornings, it's a lot of people from everywhere else.
Yeah, but we have India as well. And
India's worse. India's always like, we can give you advice on how to deal with a dictator. They're like, don't feel bad.
Do we have anyone from the Philippines?
Right. Not yet, but hopefully soon. I mean, at this point, the Brits have a lot of explaining to do too. So
yes.
Right?
Yeah, they don't get to pretend to be superior.
Oh no, I don't think anybody is. I mean, I think some are, but just the same ones that are like here. All right, let's see. This is starting to come together. Like I said, this is actually an assignment that will take longer than 2 hours. So I'm gonna send, let's see, what's everybody got going on? Ooh, Sandra, very nice. I love it. I really
Oh,
love your
good.
bag. I really love it.
Oh,
Jean,
good. I'm gonna
really
stop here,
wonderful.
kind of thing.
Love the movement. I'm really feeling, yeah, maybe stop here for the moment and then go back in later when you're ready. I'll send mine over. Go ahead and take a picture of your piece just wherever you're at, and send it over so we can see. Here's mine. And, oh, I see. Janet said, bye, everybody. I have to hop off early. I totally missed that. I'm going to remove the spotlight here. Put people in a gallery view so you can see everyone. Let's say hello. And I want to know, let's see, well, let's start with the new people. So Sarah, can you tell me one or two things that you think you did well and one thing you think you need to work on in this class?
Sure.
Start with what you did well.
I really like, I did some of these outer petals with more soft transitions here of just like stippling. And I feel like I did well there.
I agree. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, you're getting there. You just need more time to get it all done, right?
Yeah,
Like, literally.
I just feel like there's a lot of awkward happening still. Like maybe
I like your
like-
background too. I think that went well.
there's this weird giant white section right here that still needs some work.
So there's kind of a red edge on the bottom and then sort of on the top. And then there's a shaping that has to happen where you bring in a little bit of dark on the top. But yeah, I'd agree. So just working on your shaping and continuing to work on transitions between light and dark edges, really great. How do you feel now at the end of a class? How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel like I learned more. Normally when I'm painting, I'm doing very like hard edges and like lots of really strong, thick lines. And I'm not really good at the like blending soft petal type of painting at all. So like this is really, really challenging for me, but really good practice.
Awesome. Well, and I don't expect people to be good at that. It's not really knowable until you start to practice it, right? Like it's a whole, like the practice of creating a blended edge, that's everything in painting. You'll spend your whole painting career trying to create a blended edge, fighting it, making it happening. The hard edges are easier because you can, put them in and make them very strong. But this soft transition, that's the tough. Very nice. How about you, Shelley? How'd it go for you? What are two things you think you did well and one thing you could work on?
I definitely think I can work on understanding color and things like that. But I think that, for what I can do, it's not bad.
Well, what do you like about it? What specifically do you think you did well? You like the whole painting?
Yeah, I liked. Oh God, I'm not sure.
When I look at your painting, so this is what I want you to start thinking, Shelley, because this is going to help you get better. Woo! Oh, that's from Diana. That's really nice. So here, wait, hold on. Getting back to Shelley. I think that your hard edges in the whites have worked out really, really well. I think you got those really well. And I also like how you got the light, you're paying attention to value. I see you not just doing sort of uniform values. I see you kind of looking at where things are lighter and darker. And I think that's really good. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
I definitely am trying to figure out the soft blend.
That's just a practice. That's a practice.
Really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but it's the hardest thing. So that's what if that's the hardest thing, that's all right. You can keep practicing. Emma, how about you? What do you think you did well in this assignment? And what do you think you could work on?
I think I did like the shapes of the petals really well. I think I
agree.
I don't draw that much, but I think I was pretty, like, the sketch at the beginning, I was surprised.
At how well that came out?
Yeah. And then I feel like I definitely am not really sure how to go about the details of the painting.
Right.
That's something I have a lot of practice with.
Right.
So it's looking a little like, it looks like a cat to me right now. I don't know.
I like it. So it's just working on the sort of minute brushwork, the more detailed brushwork. And that's, but I agree. And I also feel that you really described it last week when you were talking. I think you understood, it clicked in for you how to draw. Like, I think paying attention to shape and value just went in for you. So it's not going to be as problematic as for other people because you're not fighting what you're looking at. Yeah, and don't worry, like the detail is just, it's a continuing, what you want to do is you get more in, really it's about paying attention to edges is the simple way of thinking about it. So it's looking at, where does a light edge meet a dark edge? Does this call for a little tiny bit more detail? Right? Is there a little few stripes coming off the white edge, right? Is there a little red edge kind of around the edge of some of those white petals? Like, you start to look at shapes, but you're looking at where light meets dark. Everybody feel a little bit better than they did at the beginning of class? Or
Yeah.
good? Yeah, good. Anybody else want to jump in? I could make everybody do this, but I feel like that gets kind of tedious. So if anybody wants to, anybody else want to say how it went for them today? What you think you got? I think, Sandra, I want to say, I think your brushwork is really coming along. So I know for you, you're maybe not feeling like you're a little out of your depth, but I like what I'm seeing. I really
Oh,
like
good.
what I'm seeing. And
think-
Jean, as well for you, color mixing, great. Drawing, getting better. And Grant, so brave.
I don't know about that, but I gave it a
Working
shot.
with watercolor. It's coming along. Your drawing is really solid. And that is helping your painting. Weirdly, that's the thing that's going to help the painting the most, is making your drawing solid. So, and Jessica, we haven't seen what you've done. So,
Yeah, I'm still working on that commission, but I think if
Can you show us
I
this
stay
screen?
at my easel for another hour, I would finish it.
all right.
You
So
don't
send it
understand. This
through.
painting is giving me, no, I'm not
Giving
taking
you
a picture yet.
fits. Giving you fits.
I did the hard, scary part that was making me not paint tonight. So thanks.
Oh, good.
Yay.
What was the hard, scary part? Can you say?
A glowing lightsaber, and it's glowing.
And it's glowing. Good.
It's glowing. It looks good. I'm happy with it.
Excellent. All right. Well, great work today, you guys. Very quickly, before we jump off, I'm going to show you a couple of things that I am very proud of. So you're going to have to just watch me while I hold on. Oh, wait, I'm going to stop the
Well, look,
record.